So today I'm going to start working on the truck again. I've worked on the box. I'll do a quick little video on an update on the box. Otherwise, we're going to actually start putting the rear suspension in. So it means I have to get this thing over to this side, and I have to level out that frame because it's level. The frame is level with the jig there, the frame machine. It's all level, so I got to level it all out on this side, and then we'll start the suspension. Meanwhile, here's a quick video on the box. Just an update on the box, just to show that it's finally finished-ish. You know, preliminary wise, there's still some stuff I got to do, but I got to block it all out and stuff. But I'm not doing like I said, I'm not doing the final body work until be a while yet anyway. So here's a quick little walk around on it. Yeah, you can see there's a few little divots there that I got to take care of, but overall, you know, it's in pretty decent shape now. I can't really see anything on the shadowed side, I imagine, but yeah. That's the box. I got it all finished out on the edge and everything. So, like I say, these little divots, most of it will sand out. So, anyway, there is the box. And here's the beginning of the suspension. Of course, now it doesn't look like much because this is kind of where it was. But I had to adjust it sideways. It was an 1/8 inch off. Now, most people are going to say, oh, that's probably not enough, and it's probably not, but I put it right on. It's just the way I like to do it. And then I measured, and I'm right on as far as this way in the chassis also. And then I tacked it. I put my meter right here at 3 degrees nose up. I would typically think that I should be at 0, but this is a Scott's suspension, this rear suspension. Scott's Hot Rods made it, and they, in their instructions, they say they want that pinion angle 3 degrees nose up. And it might have something to do with the way the rods can be adjusted. So I don't know. Anyway, that's where I'm at so far. So I was starting on the rear suspension. I grabbed a little snag there, so there's a little alteration I got to do, or that's going to happen. Meanwhile, I'm putting in the cross member for the front suspension. This has a notch. You can kind of see it's all notched out for the frame and everything. Upper control and lower control. That's a nice thing about Scott's suspension. I did have to clearance this, grind this just a little bit on each side, and trim a little here and there just to get it to fit, because while their measurements are precise, mine in the actual frame is not. So there is the beginning of the front suspension so far. I got to pull it up, square it, and tack it, and then I can start hanging things on it and verify that's where I want the wheel. Getting some preliminary fitting done on the suspension. That's basically what it is right there. Airbag, shock, or excuse me, shocks and back, sway bar. So that's basically it right there. The thing is, now I want to set the lower A-arms. I want to get it to level. I want to check out where the axle is compared to the back axle, make sure of the rake. If I don't like it, I can adjust it, move everything up and down. So that's it so far. On the front suspension today, didn't like where it was really at because it was too high. You couldn't do a full lock turn. So I lowered it down a little bit, just with the control on for now, just to see where I'm at. And you can see that the wheel is off center to the front just a little bit. So that's what those strings are for. The bottom string goes all the way to the back, and I kind of wanted to know where the axle height was compared to the rear axle height in relationship to the body, and I think this needs to go down an inch lower than it is. So the angle on the control arm has dropped a little more than an inch. So I'm going to drop the whole cross member 2 inches. In doing that, I have to figure out the middle or the center of the wheel well where I want this to be. It looks like I'm going to have plenty of room to the spare wheel tub, because I'm going to be going, you know, the front end's going to be up higher than a street rod would be. So I put the string across. The bottom string, I did it for the axle, but I measured the middle, the center of that, and drew a pencil line. And then I did another string line right here with a level to make sure it was level all the way across, and put another mark on it. And then here are my 2 marks, the difference between the two, here and there. So I don't know if that's quite a ½ inch, maybe 3/8 of much of a difference. So I'll probably be putting the wheel back further to the further line. I'm not exactly sure yet. It's kind of crapshoot a little bit on how you want to make this thing really look, because the way the front fender flares, you know, flares out a little, and the back kind of comes straight down and then curves. So it's, or, you know, so it's going to come back a little bit, maybe a ½ inch, maybe just a hair more. So we'll see. We'll see how I got to run it through my mind anyway. But anyway, I got to take all this apart, cut the cross member back out, drop it down 2 inches, weld it back in, or tack it back in, set this in, and hopefully move it back just a little bit, right? And then go from there. So there we are. I ended up cutting off, took everything apart, cut off the cross member here. I also had measured how low it had to go from this piece here, and it happened to be 3 inches space, because I had to go down 2. The whole thing was 5, just over, just about an 1/8, but an 1/8 I'm not too concerned with. So it had to go down 2 inches. That thing is 3 inches, it was 5 inches, and do the math, blah, blah, blah. This is where it needs to rest. It needs to rest on that. That is level. I will put a level on this stuff. This is how much further down it's got to go. And this was the center I put it at. This is the center it needs to be at. So I got to line that up with this center here. So we can tack it in right there. It dropped, you know, like I say, 2 inches. So just like that. Same on this side. Pretty much lined up on it. Like I said, just got to make sure it's level, and I can run a tack in it again. And this could be, now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check it from here to the rear axle dimension, make sure that this is this way okay. Even though my marks are there, I want to make sure that I've got them right on. So it doesn't look like it can go side to side, because you can see right there it's kind of rubbing. That's the factory stuff there. So it's rubbing there. So let's measure it up and tack her in, see what this thing looks like. So I lowered the cross member, so you can see where the notch is here. A notch, that's where they wanted me to put it on. There's 2 inches from there up, roughly. The thing wasn't really sitting on there when I did it, but roughly 2 inches up from there. And so then you can see how I lowered it. The upper control arm is about just a tick above, well, actually the upper control arm is probably even with the frame there. But there's the suspension at ride height. That should be where it is. The lower control arm is even, or like level with everything else, in line. Since it's all leveled out, it's level, and that's where it is. And I'll show you what the tire then looks like. I also moved it back, remember, 5/8 of an inch, and this is what the tire on there looks like. I don't know if you can see that very well. Let me, okay, there we go. Got a little light out of there, but there's the wheel, more centered in the wheel well, and then you can see how much ground clearance I'm going to have. You can kind of see the bottom of the tire to the top of the or the bottom of the fender and running board area. You can see that I have a good amount of space there. That's what I want. I want it up. I don't want it slammed. I think it'll look good lower, parked maybe, but really this is where I'm going to have it. And that should be a little rake from the rear. I'm going to be putting the rear on to see where I'm really at. But that is the front suspension so far. The cross member, as you can see inside here, it says Made in USA there. That is not lower than the nose. You can see this, I go down and the nose really is still below it, which is okay. That'll be the lowest point, unfortunately, on the car, is their little chin piece there. But again, there is the suspension. That's a Scott's suspension. I will continue this video in the rear. And as I wrap up the front suspension, I just put the shocks on, tacked the bracket on both sides. And then is what I'm going to do is I will get a piece of threaded rod from here to there, and I will weld on a couple washers, nut or something, and then I'll still be able to bolt it on and put it here. So that'll then hold up my front end when I get this off of here, rather than putting in the airbag. Although I still may put in the airbag and leave the shocks on. We'll see, because I want to know how it goes up and down. Get some temporary lines and a Schrader valve. So anyway, I also put the sway bar, I just kind of put the links on. It's way off right now, of course, it's just loose. I got it just wired up because I wanted to make sure that the sway bar width was correct, and where the sway bar was going to hit, if it was going to hit the body up here or not. It looks like it'll be really close, but I'll be able to make the brackets and hold on to the bushings down here, so that should be no problem. Other than that, the wheel is in the correct spot where I want it. You can see that the A-frame is currently level, and there we go. That is the suspension. Back on the rear end, these were the brackets I was missing. I had some different style. I wanted this style. So here we go. Now I put those brackets on. Now I just set them on there. They're not welded or anything. They're not in the right spot, but they're that snug that they just hold their own. So anyway, we will continue on this rear end. I'm making a little progress. This is just all mocked up. Nothing's welded on yet. These brackets here were so snug that they would stay on that axle, so which was good. Just put the bars on, let them swing up to where they were. They're at 1 degree nose up right now, going this way. That will be adjusted a little bit too when I figure out where the middle of my travel is, up and down. Wanted to put my airbags on just to see what kind of clearance I have on my frame. I have 1/4 inch. Kind of think that'll be okay, just simply because these only go up 1 more inch, and then those plates will be holding it over, you know, so I will have to cut those plates to the right height or width or whatever that is. So anyway, that is it so far. Rear end's coming along. I tacked in these brackets here. Now, what's interesting is the way these brackets are, this angle here is 7 degrees, like that, and then you set the rod ends. I did about 5 threads out, and you bring it over here, you line that up. I put a block there because it needed to have a little extra room, and then I put the angle on these. Now the angle on these, you set them level, right, at half travel. So right in the middle of your suspension travel, these should be level. Well, my suspension ride height is up a little more than that, so these actually slightly tip down. But that's the way you do it. It's not much, but it does. So then I moved on to the shocks. Shock mounts were already down there. I had to put this shock bar in. I just hooked well, I measured. I had to trim 3/16 of an inch off each end of that tube. Then I hooked the shocks up, put the bar on, tacked it there, or pushed everything down, tacked it there, and tacked it here. And that's that. Now I have to I got the airbags yet, airbag plates, and I've got the panhard bar. And that's what I'll do next. Well, so here it is. I had to make a few adjustments and things, like I ended up moving the shock bar back further. I put spacers in there. I also raised it. Should be no big deal. I'm gonna take and cap this by bringing it down like that, like a triangle here. Capping that. Everything's tacked, and that's about it. I do have the airbags in, shocks on. The airbags have a little air in them. This is all temporary air stuff. So there we go. The panhard bar in. So now I'm getting lined up to put the box on. There we go. Now that I have the rear suspension somewhat wrapped up, I put the box back on there. And if you remember from a past video, I put sleeves on the 4 corners to see how that worked, and I tell you that worked out really well. I just lowered the box nice and easy, put longer bolts through there, and that guided it, and it just fell right into place. So the bed is aligned. I just put it down and it's aligned. So there we go. Now I'm going to lift it off the frame machine and continue on. And I know the video is getting a little long, but I'll show you the stance and everything at the end. Okay. Here it is on the ground. I can't get a good view of it. Maybe I'll just pull it out and take a look at it. I will tell you, I made a small mistake, which is actually a big mistake on this, and that is the rear wheel. I thought I had the rear wheel centered and welded in, and now that I look at it, I don't believe it's centered. So that means I'm going to take the rear end apart, but I got a plan. No reason to get all upset about it. Just gotta tackle it and do it again. So right now I've got the string out. I'm gonna try to figure out the middle, the center, and go from there. All right, I'll get one last view of it sitting outside, and then that'll be the end of this video. And here it is, the final, well, you know, semi-final setting of the truck. I moved that wheel back Move that wheel back 3/4 of an inch. I know I still have to, I just did that with the bars. I have to move the plates, the upper mounts for the bags and stuff like that. I still got to move all that, but I wanted to know what it would take, and this is what it takes. So I'll be able to make that adjustment. So, and then there's the front. Front's a lot better. I don't have the other side together, so this is the only side you're going to see. But there it is. And that will conclude this video.